Hi guys, hope you're all well. Today I'm just going to do a little chat about translucent clay and the placking that we get with it, and how you can do your things to avoid placking. And this will work with any translucent clay, and to be fair guys, it'll work with any of your clay. If you have a problem with the surface bubbling, you've just got trapped air, so this will help a little bit with that as well if you're having any issues. But I have just to one side here, because I don't want it glowing in the camera yet, I've just put my little ring light on, because I appreciate it's really hard to be able to see plaques on the camera. So this was just cut straight from the pack, and it was, you see the plaques in there now. It was just cut straight from the pack and baked, usual temperature, usual time, and as you can see it's absolutely packed full of plaques. This one I just kind of half-heartedly tried working with it, so it's a lot better, but there's still quite a few little plaques in there. It's better, but if you really just have a go and practice, and granted guys, this one is on a thinner setting. These were just on a 0, a 2, and this is on a 5, because of course the clearer, the thinner it is, the more translucency you get. And this, oh, we're flickering, this is what you can achieve with just a little bit of, it's not even effort, you know, just a little bit of thoughtfulness when you're conditioning. So what I'm going to do is go and, let's move that light because it's annoying, isn't it? I'll go and get my machine set up on my desk, and I'll probably overdub this. This is actually the second time I've filmed this video, because I filmed a couple of parts of it and then my oven packed up, and I realised in the first one I was talking about temperatures and things, and I've now not got the same oven, so it's changed a little bit. So anyway, at least I've got there eventually. So yeah, I'll go and set my machine up, I'll get some translucent clay out, and I'll just show you on video what I do to minimise placking. And it's dead simple guys, it's nothing exciting. It's just being a bit mindful when you're putting it through your machine, and just before you start conditioning with your pasta machine or by hand, if you're doing it by hand, just make sure that your clay is at least at a decent room temperature, because if it's cold, you're going to introduce more bubbles by just shoving it through your pasta machine. So it's always better to get your clay warm, even if it's a fresh clay and it's very soft, just get it warm, then there's no cracking, and that'll help as well with to not get bubbles in it. Okay, I'll go and get my machine set up and I'll see you in a sec. Okay guys, I've zoomed you out so you can see the numbers on my dial, you can see the top of machine. I've just got some Cernit here and I've just been getting it warm. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the sound off and I'll overdub, so voiceover Kath will be with you shortly. Hi guys, voiceover Kath here. As you can see, I've just got my pasta machine on a 0 and I'm just passing the clay through to get it an even thickness. And can you see how I'm poking it in without it actually sticking together? And that's what we're trying to do to avoid trapping more bubbles. And I put it in with the fold at the side, because I just find that that really helps. And now I've changed to a 2, and I'm just passing it through a couple of times again, and I'm stretching it and just kind of giving it a gentle tug. If your clay starts to break when you're doing this, it's not warm enough, guys. You should be able to give it a reasonable tug without it splitting, and just passing it through again, giving it a nice tug in both directions through the clay, and again just trying to pass it through without it sticking together too much. Then I know all the air comes out. And now I've just changed it to a 4. And I can also recommend, guys, don't try and condition too much clay at once. To be fair, I've probably got a bit too much there, so when it goes thinner and of course the sheet goes bigger, it can be a little bit harder to manage. So again, I was just stretching it, and I'm just folding it in half, trying my best for it not to stick together, tugging it again, and you know, being quite thorough, making sure it's all had a good little stretch, and again just popping it in to make sure that it's not stuck together before it goes in, and that forces the air out, so you're not adding even more air to the sheet. And again, just gentle but firm, like bouncy tugs I do, if that makes sense. And see how I've got a little fold there? That's what you don't really want to happen. That's why I've passed it through again, just to make sure that I got that little ripple out. And I was just checking. And now I'm going back to a 2. Because if you want your clay to be on the thinner side, you could actually stop there, guys. But I generally take it back up to a 0 and then decide what I'm doing with it once I've conditioned it. And you'll get into the knack of knowing how much you need to pass it through, if that makes sense. It's just a bit of practice, guys. And again, putting my finger there just so I can make sure that it's not stuck together before I pass it through again. And now I'm back to the 0 setting. And again, just popping my finger in to stop it sticking together on the way through, and a couple of little tugs all the way down, just to get it perfect. And I think I'm nearly there now. I'm kind of thinking to myself, yeah, I think that's enough, that'll be fine. Or maybe not. Yeah, if I remember rightly, this package that I'm using seemed to be quite rated. I'd noticed it when I was doing the samples where I hadn't conditioned it. There was a lot of air trapped in the clay to begin with in the manufacturing process. And there we go, guys, done. Okay guys, let me just adjust the camera a little bit. There we go. So as you could see, and from what I was saying, we should now have a nicely conditioned piece of clay that will have minimal placking in it. I am going to cut a couple of pieces out of this. This is on a 0, so I'll cut one on a 0 and I'll do another thin one just to show you. I'll just grab my cutters. And I'll just pass this through to bring it down a size. I won't be a sec. Okay, and I'll put one on a 3. And I'll do one on a 5. So there we go. I've now got my 3 pieces. There's just a bit of something stuck to the top of that, guys. I don't know what it is. Right, let me grab a bit of paper. And my blade. Shape wooden today, I tell you. So let me just double check. Okay, that's the 3. That's the 0. And that's the 5. And I've just done them on different thicknesses, guys, then. You can see, because of course it's translucent, so the thicker it is, the you lose some of the translucency, don't you? I'll pop these in the oven, and as I've just said, I've got a new oven, and it's taken me a good couple of hours to get the temperature sussed out. So it does take a bit of planning once you get a new oven. So I'll go and bug these in the oven, guys, and get them baked off, and then I'm just going to talk a little bit about translucent clays and the colour shift you can get with them and things when we come back. Okay guys, see you in a minute. Hi guys, these are literally just out the oven. As you can see, they still look white because like most translucent clays, they're not really translucent till they're cool. Now I always drop my stuff into iced water, and the reason I do that is I think if you've got some bubbles trapped or a bit of placking or whatever, the heat makes the air expand. So if you plunge into cold water, it'll contract that air and should therefore help a bit with the clarity. Now I hope that makes sense. That's why I do it. I know some people don't think it works. I personally think it does. Each to their own, guys. Let it cool on its own if you would like. Ooh, that is really cold, that water. Just making sure that they're really cool. And I'll just get them out and dry them. I wanted to do everything kind of real time. Then you didn't think I was kind of cheating or anything. Does that make sense? It makes sense in my head. Let me just dry these off. Now then, get rid of that water. Okay, so here's our pieces, guys. Now I can see in these there is a few little white marks, but I don't believe there's any huge placking. So I'll start with the thickest piece first, and as you can see with my little light, I'm going to bring it right up. There's a few tiny little specks in there, guys, but nothing drastic whatsoever. Same with this piece, again just a couple of little specks in there, nothing drastic. And the thinner piece I seem to have baked a bit of something black in there, but you can see again, I hope that there's no huge plaques. Like, where's the other piece? Let's just bring this other piece in. You know, if we compare those thicknesses, because they're actually the same, you can see there's plaques everywhere in this one, and there's just a few little lines. I could have maybe done it a little bit longer. And I'm just going to get something with some dark writing on. Let's do it on this Cernit clay, just so you can see the clarity through that. So even on the thickest piece we've got some really good clarity, whereas on this piece, yeah, we've got clarity, but you can see those spots and dots everywhere with the placking. Okay guys, now that bit's done. Let's just put them to one side. The last thing I just wanted to briefly talk about is I hear a lot of people talking about colour shifting with translucent clay, and I really think it's unfair that we say that with translucent clay, to be fair, because most translucent clays, with the exception of Premo, I haven't tried Premo white translucent, guys, so I haven't got a comparison for that, but most of the clays, as you saw then, are a white tone until they are baked, and then of course they go translucent. So if you think with anything, if you've got some white paint and you add a tiny speck of red to it, you're going to get a pale pink. And that's what happens with your translucent clays. So all the translucent ranges of clays, be it the plain translucent ones or the coloured translucents, you are going to get a colour shift if they look white before they're baked. It's just, you know, common sense really, isn't it? So I've just got a couple of bits here I just want to show you. So here we've got translucent clay, that's Cernit, and translucent clay, that's Premo, and that's how it bakes. Cernit, and that's how Premo bakes. Now as you can see, there isn't that much of a colour shift really between the Premo raw clay and baked clay, but there is a heck of a colour difference between the raw and the baked in the Cernit, and that's just because once it's baked, the white disappears and the translucency comes through. So you actually get, I think, again personally, if I just pick these up and show you, there's the raw one, there's the baked one. Now can you see that it looks quite pinky, doesn't it? Yes, there isn't much of a colour shift, there's a bit of a more of a richness to the colour, but if I just pick these up and put them side by side, can you see the difference in clarity between those two? Like, that looks pink and that just looks like a soft red. So to say that there's a huge colour shift with translucent clays is a little bit of a misnomer, I think. And the best thing you can do is bake yourself a couple of chips and test your colours. You know, that's what I do before I make any of my, you know, I use a lot of translucent clay, and I'm very used to how it, you know, I know how much I need to add to a little bit of translucent, how much colour I need to add to a little bit of translucent to get the kind of shade I want. I've got used to it, but I still bake a colour chip. So before I do any of my stones, I'll make some I'll condition some translucent clay, I'll put my little grain of colour through, and I'll make a chip, and then I'm absolutely 100% sure of the colour I'm going to get. So yeah, so when people say, if you see somebody and they say, hey, you know, oh, I don't use that because it's got such a colour shift. Well, it hasn't got a colour shift. It's just because the base colour of the translucent is white, and you don't see the true colour until it's gone translucent. And both clays are, you know, both clays are great for using for stone techniques and stuff. But you know, used to use Fimo white translucent, and that's the same, exactly the same. I've not tried Kator, can't comment on Kator. Pardot's the same. It's absolutely white until it's been baked, and even when it's baked it has a whitish tone, doesn't it? And once it's buffed and polished, you know, you can get a really lovely finish on it, whereas the Primo will always have that little bit of a brown cast to it. So yeah, just bear in mind, guys, that, you know, I mean, this is the red I used, so you can see the difference there. If you want to go for a true red, that's really pinky, and that is, you know, just a translucent red. So yeah, there, you know, there is a colour shift, but it's not a true colour shift. It's like I say, a misnomer I think that people have. And just by baking a few test chips, a lot of colours go a little bit darker, and a lot of people say it goes a lot darker when it's baked, but again, that's because they don't put any fillers in the clay they use, so the translucency of the colour is able to come through. So yeah, just a bit of common sense there, guys, really. Just bake yourselves a chip, and Bob's your uncle, really, isn't it? And that's it, guys. I've had them on. And I really do hope that me just showing you how I condition the clay will give you just a little bit more confidence with it, because I know it's disheartening, and I do it, guys. Sometimes I'm in a rush and I forget, and I end up with plaques in my clay. But if you just, you know, just take your time when you're conditioning it, don't rush, make sure that you've warmed it nicely, and then just go through that process. And if you've got a big lump of clay that's you know, you've screwed up, just get that warm and just give it quite a few passes before you start reducing, and that will really help with any air that's trapped in it. And it's just a bit of practice, guys, and it didn't take as long as probably just conditioning a piece of clay. You know, you're still conditioning it as you're going, aren't you? It's just being a bit more mindful of how you place it in the machine, and try not to trap any extra air in while you're folding and putting it through the machine. Right, my loves, I'll leave you all there. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you all soon. Bye.